Hey, good evening. It's Monday night, and it's December 30th, 2024, and it's kind of our New Year's Eve show, and unfortunately, Dan Rosenberg is not here, but I, Eric Schiemer, am here to welcome you in and to invite you to join us tonight as we talk some movies and maybe some other stuff. Who knows? But we invite you to enjoy us at EriDanLive.com. Super easy. Jump in the browser, head on over to EriDanLive.com. You can join us live via video or stay where you're at on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and you can leave comments, and we'll respond to your comments. We want to hear what you have to say, and we're going to talk movies. This is our last double feature of December, although next week is a double feature as well. But it is the end of our holiday double feature marathon, and so we're super excited to talk a couple of movies to you. And because I'm just talking to myself now, I'm going to bring on Adam and bring him on into this party and get this thing started. Adam, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. And you chose one of our movies tonight.
Yes, I did.
You know, so these are both kind of adult-ish Christmas movies, holiday movies, definitely Christmas movies, but I guess holiday movies. So we're going to be talking about The Night Before, and we're going to talk about Violent Night. Both movies I have seen before, but was happy to watch again because I didn't have as many memories from them as I thought I did. I'm like, oh, I know Violent Night. I'm like, oh, that's right. I totally forgot which way this goes. So, yeah, so this will be fun. So if you've seen those movies before, you can join us. If you haven't, join us anyways, and we'll hear what you have to say about these two movies. And we'd love to hear from you. I have a feeling a lot of our regulars are not able to make it tonight because, you know, it's the holidays. You know, that happened. That happened to me last week. I was unable to be here last week, so I can't really criticize people for not being here. And you said you have to leave in an hour, right?
Yeah, the show won't probably be an hour long.
I would be shocked, but maybe we'll get into some really intense conversation about these.
Yes.
So, well, I mean, let's jump into Violent Night while it's the two of us. You could at least say why you chose Violent Night.
I chose it because I've seen it before, and I wanted kind of a change of pace holiday movie. When watching a lot of serious kind of movies or romantic movies or whatever. Yeah. So I just want to do a change of pace, and I think it's, you know, it's a pretty good movie, you know, for being what it is. It's a good little action movie. And it's got a little heart in it too. It's got some Christmas.
I think it definitely has some heart.
Yeah.
So Dave is here, obviously. Dave, the chooser of our other movie. So thank you for joining us, Dave.
Certainly.
Yeah. We're talking obviously about, we're going to start off with Violent Night. You know, as I was describing it to somebody earlier, I'm like, well, it's a family movie if you're the Manson family. No,
it's Santa in Die Hard with a little Home Alone thrown in.
Yes, absolutely. But I did feel it was like, this is a movie for parents who want to let their kids watch things that they probably shouldn't watch. Because it does feel a little like a kid's movie at times. And then there's people getting stabbed with stars in the eye.
Decapitated. And
decapitation and, you know, fun for the whole family.
Well, I mean, it does have a message too, kind of, for being a rated R movie. It's like he starts, you know, at the beginning, he starts off and he's super disillusioned with the whole Christmas thing. And he's like an alcoholic Santa Claus and, you know, all this stuff. And then by the end of the movie, you know, he's kind of like his faith is kind of restored and the Christmas spirit, I guess, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
no, it totally works for me. Like this,
yeah.
We finished this, and my wife says this needs to be part of our yearly Christmas.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah, they're making a sequel too. They're making a sequel apparently.
Are they really?
Yes, it's in early stages.
And the elves featuring prominently.
She will be very excited.
David Harbour has lobbied for Charlize Theron to play Mrs. Claus.
That's an excellent casting choice if she's interested.
I mean, I also like too how they kind of give him a little backstory too of like how he became Santa Claus. It's not like he's just like some mythical. Well, he is kind of mythical, I guess, the way they told the story. So
yeah, my favorite thing is, I know Dave, you and I have always talked about the fact that you don't like it when they try to explain too much about Santa Claus. I love in this movie how Santa doesn't even understand how everything works.
No, exactly. He's just,
That is,
it's Christmas magic. I never figured out how.
I don't really know how that works. I thought that was a fun twist, right? That Santa isn't even completely aware.
My only real criticism, and it's not that major, is some of the fight scenes were too long. Yeah, they stretched out a little long, but it didn't really hurt it that much. But they probably could have shaved at least 5 to 10 minutes off.
I do agree. It could be like the one scene where he's going up against the kill squad goes on a little long at that point in the movie, where it's like, but it does, and you're right, it does feel at times, especially when he's injured, he's squatting in one place, and the little girl's squatting in the other, and they're talking on the phone. It's like, all right, this is 100% Die Hard.
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean, they even have the having to walk on broken glass. That's straight out of Die Hard.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, David Harbour is excellent. You
needed someone of his caliber to make this movie work, and he does pull it off.
Yes, and I enjoyed John Leguizamo in this as well.
Yeah, I was about to just say he did a really good job as the main bad guy.
Yeah,
and the henchmen were good too. The henchmen were pretty good too. The oh god, what's his name? The guy and the girl henchmen. I forget their names now.
Andy Kane and
can't remember what his name was. Gingerbread? No, not Gingerbread. Was it Gingerbread or?
Oh no, I have it up here.
They had names.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They did. There was Peppermint and Jingle, Tinsel.
I want to say he was Gingerbread. But I don't remember.
He was Gingerbread.
Yeah, Gingerbread.
Andre Erickson.
Yes.
As Gingerbread. So Dan's comments on this was, it's a fun movie. It's true to its title. It's both violent, and he watched it at night.
So insightful, that Dan.
He said it was a bit over the top, but that's not shocking. It's exactly what he expected it to be. John Leguizamo was great. So, Dan had a good time with it.
I could have done without them all standing around in a circle at the end going, I believe now too. Oh, I believe. It really didn't need that.
That's what brought him back to life.
It didn't need that.
I have a feeling that was done very tongue in cheek.
I do realize, but it still didn't need it.
Yeah.
No, probably not. Well, that's part of the ones where it started to feel like a kid's movie, right? Where it's like, who's this for again?
And you knew the moment you saw that standalone chimney what was going to happen.
Oh, that was so great, though. That was that was so great. What a great way to dispense of the bad guy.
You knew after the opening scene when he's at the bar and he's flying off and the lady's outside on the roof looking at him. I mean, she gets the puke on. You knew where the movie was going from there, so All
right, so Amanda says that she found Violent Night to be relatively enjoyable. It was a very good Santa, which helped a lot. Reminded me of the Rise of the Guardians. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, there's definitely feels a little like the Rise of the Guardians. Especially enjoyed how he had no idea how Christmas magic worked, which is what I was saying. I really thought that was such a clever way of dealing with that stuff, where he was kind of like, I have no idea.
The list, the fact that the naughty list just kept, like, the kill squad rolls in and he pulls it, was like, oh, come on.
I did enjoy the scroll as a way for him to look at his list. The sort of myth, and again, he has no idea how that works. I love that. I thought that was a super clever device.
The only character I kind of didn't like was the grandson with the cell phone doing the selfies the whole movie and the Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's kind of whatever.
Gertrude.
Yeah. But
I thought that was a similarity in both movies. We had characters who were being online personalities.
On social media. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. In both movies.
And in both movies, a major character gets his hand pierced as he's
That's a very good point. That is a very good. I thought they could have made Gertrude a lot more annoying than they did.
At first, I thought they were going to. He actually turned out to not be an incredibly awful kid.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, he could have been.
By far the most annoying one was the boyfriend.
Which is why I think he ended the way he ended.
I think so too. They set him up to be killed.
Absolutely. So I mean,
he may have been stupid, but he was very, very hot.
Yeah,
I also
this is. I don't know if it would for me. It would be yearly, but at least every couple of years. I think this is a super fun. Again, not necessarily gather the kids around movie. I'm purposely not showing clips from this movie.
No,
because it's it lives up to its title.
You know who was really good? I mean, really annoying, but really good was the sister.
Oh yeah.
And did you recognize her? Because I knew where did I know her from? I had to look it up.
So that's Edie Patterson.
She was the creepy woman fostering all the kids in Nutcrackers.
She was in Nutcracker.
oh,
And she's also in Resident Alien, which
yes,
hilarious.
Yep,
that's awesome.
I did like how the son steals the money and then he thinks his mom's gonna be like furious, and the mom's like, "I'm proud of you. That's exactly what I would have done. I would have stolen the money too."
Really, D'Angelo. I mean,
yeah, she was great too. Like she just,
she was. I could have also pictured Linda Hamilton playing that part.
Yes, that would have been a fun role to play. I think for her role,
I think that for someone who's usually more of a comedic actress, not that this wasn't a comedic role, but to play this over the top.
Yeah, the phone call was a bit over the top that she takes early in the call.
Grandma's cool.
Well, even the twist with the Kill Squad being bad guys is kind of the same thing that happens in Die Hard 2 when the military shows up at the end, and John McClane's thinking, and the military. John McClane's thinking the military is there to help him out, and it turns out they're working for the terrorist organization. Yeah, so it was kind of the same exact.
Yeah, with its influences, it wore them on its sleeve.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, no, they weren't shy about. I don't think they were trying to make anything incredibly original.
One thing that was a little bit weird was because I often do this in this kind of movie. Like you watch Olympus Has Fallen or any of this one versus the whole building full of bad guys movies, of which it's an entire genre. And you count the bad guys one by one getting knocked off. So I said there, I was counting when they count, because they even counted them off basically at the beginning when they're going through all of their nicknames. Okay, so there's John Leguizamo and 8 henchmen. Okay, and you see them, and then he even pulls it up after 2 of them are dead and goes, "Oh, 6 of them," So they're, but then they never accounted for 2 of them.
Oh, interesting.
The woman who was breaking into the vault, we never saw how she died or if she died.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, she just never appeared again.
That is interesting.
And there was one other. I don't remember which one it was. They only killed off 6 of them, plus, of course, all of the kill squad.
Okay.
Not a big deal. Just kind
of the non-violent ones. Gotcha. Well, it's interesting because a lot of these movies would just have them, either tying up or they're like, "Oh no, the staff really got screwed in this movie."
Oh yeah,
the staff just got wiped out.
Right.
If they had wanted to make a PG version of this movie, they could have.
Yes.
Instead of killing off, you just lock them up in the basement, and then you cut way down on the violence.
Exactly. Right.
They made you feel bad for the poor guy working the gate at the beginning. He was such a nice guy, and he just gets shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, that one was a little harsh.
It's what gives him permission to have Santa wipe them all out, though. Is clearly they're willing to wipe out everybody, so Santa just returns the favor,
Well, and then you don't feel as bad about the guy who got the nail through the bottom of his neck. That's one of the ones where it's like, oh, I know, oh no.
Yeah,
I don't know. The one where she gets her head stuck in the tar and rips her scalp off.
Good point too.
Yes,
they use their Home Alone gag to its fullest extent.
And the guy getting stabbed in the neck with the icicle and stabbed in the eye with the Christmas tree star.
Yeah.
And he catches on fire. That was when.
That's when you knew where it was going.
Oh yeah, no, there's no turning back now, right? Yeah, it's violent.
But both movies had homages to Die Hard and Home Alone in them.
That's true. Absolutely. Well, if you want, we can bounce back and forth between these two if you want to, since it is just the 3 of us currently, and I think that's all it's going to be. So the other movie we're talking about tonight is The Night Before, which Dave chose The Night Before.
Yes, you'd seen this before, right, Eric?
I have.
Yes.
My wife also loves this movie as well. She was super pumped about the movies this week.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's just a fun, dumb movie. I mean, it's not dumb in the sense that it's bad, but it's just, it doesn't take itself seriously at all.
No.
It's interesting though. I was reading because I hadn't really realized this. The way it was done was they scripted the dramatic parts and then improvised the humor. So
interesting.
Yeah, so they had this dramatic story arc that they knew where it was going, but then the humorous parts of it were all just, Mackie, Levitt, and Rogen just going at it. And Seth Rogen really sort of carries this. And if you don't like Seth Rogen, you're probably not going to like this movie because he's clearly the central figure in it. Right. Even though in some ways Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the more central dramatic character.
Right.
It's Rogen that you rely on to carry the humor through these scenes.
Yes. And I'm kind of on the fence with this movie, right?
Okay.
There are parts of this movie that I think are hilarious and fun, and then there's some slapsticky parts where it's like, you're doing such a big setup, and this is so obvious where it's going. Right? We're like, all right, it's fine. That's not my humor, right? So I don't always enjoy as much like the oh no, what's gonna happen? He's taking a lot of cocaine, and like, all right, let's let that play out.
You had to love the dragon scene at the end.
Oh yeah, actually, all the scenes with his wife I thought were really nicely portrayed. It wasn't overly schmaltzy, but it made you feel like they had a real connection. Like it's funny because like their chemistry was so much better than any of the chemistry in Christmas Perfection. I would take any of these relationships over any of the relationships in Christmas Perfection.
Oh, and don't forget Seth Rogen running out of the church going, "We didn't kill Jesus."
That I enjoyed. Him throwing up in the church, I did not enjoy as much. Oh man, yeah. It's obviously both these movies get relatively high scores on Rotten Tomatoes and all the other sites. Like they're pretty, they're definitely enjoyable. Newer, Night Before was 2015. Violent Night was 22. And they both, they do relatively decent scores. And again, newer Christmas movies, newer classic Christmas movies are not as plentiful as bad recent Christmas movies.
Well, I personally, I liked both of these movies. I would not put either one of them up quite in the classic, need to watch it every year kind of category. Probably the last movie, and I know that Adam's not as big a fan as some people are, but Elf is probably the last movie I can remember that I think is sort of a real Christmas classic.
I mean, Elf is obviously infected the zeitgeist. Like it is definitely part of a lot of people's Christmas traditions every year. For a lot of people growing up now, that is their It's a Wonderful Life or whatever. Like it's, Amanda says she loves this movie. I'm referring to The Night Before. Things like the blood dropping into the drink are a bit painful, but I found it was played off comedically enough that it doesn't bother her too much. That's nice. Dan says, again, it was what he expected from a Seth Rogen film. He thought it was a good compliment to Violent Night. He enjoyed both. And then he also watched Red One this week. So he got his fill of non-traditional Christmas films.
Well, I do like we had the two movies this week. We have David Harbour and Tracy Morgan as Santa.
That is very true. It was some I think there's plenty of recent rom-coms for Christmas movies right now. I think to go on the more outer.
Well, I almost think because Hallmark and Lifetime and all of those cable channels, Great American Family, have sort of cornered the market on your traditional schmaltzy rom-com Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So the theatrical movies now are going different directions. If you want to put out a Christmas movie in the theaters, it's less likely you're going to put out something more like a traditional Christmas rom-com because that is so mined to death on cable.
Well, so I was doing a quick search too on just R-rated Christmas movies
Okay.
because there aren't a ton, right? There are these two. There's Bad Santa.
Yes.
Bad
Which
Santa
we watched.
2. Bad Moms, which I have not seen, the Bad Moms. Love Actually, which there are a lot of people who do consider that a
Yes.
recent classic. And this Office Christmas Party movie from 2016, which I have actually seen this one before. It's what's his face? Who is it's Jennifer Aniston and Jason Bateman in Office Christmas Party.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not bad, but outside of that, in Krampus, there aren't a lot of R-rated Christmas movies.
I almost did Krampus instead of the movie I did because I hadn't seen Krampus before, and I was like, oh, it's a horror movie. But then I decided not to.
You got a couple directions you can go. You can go the violent route, sort of the violent or horror route, which Violent Night did, or you can go the drug and nudity route, which is what The Night Before did.
The scene where he visits the future.
Oh,
that's a little painful.
Yeah. Well, and then all the texts from James.
Yes. Yeah, I do enjoy the Mr. Green character quite a bit. I felt
Michael Shannon is a really underrated actor.
Incredibly
He's
clever, well done, fun, and an unexpected twist there as well at the end, I said, I don't think there's many R-rated Christmas movies that I consider every year necessary, but I think every once in a while it is kind of nice to step away from Rankin and Bass. Yes, what I'd really like is a stop motion version of Violent Night.
There you go.
Or a Lego version of The Night Before.
The Lego Christmas movie.
Oh no.
That's pretty amazing.
I definitely have the Lego movie on my short list to pick sometime. I'm surprised we haven't done it already.
It is surprising.
Everything is awesome.
Yep.
Everything is awesome. I need to work on a new list. We've exhausted most of my list that I really want to talk about. I have some things on my list that I'm like, yeah, but would that be fun to talk about? I'm not sure. Right. So I need to revamp my list a little bit in the spirit of what we actually want to talk about. But yeah, so
it came up as Margaret and I were discussing the movies for next week.
I bet you were.
Have you ever seen The Villain?
Oh, I have seen The Villain, but it has been a long time.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger and Margaret and Kirk Douglas.
Is that like a Western?
Yes, it is a Western.
I haven't seen it. I've seen like the cover art for it before. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It is right up there in quality with the movies that Eric picked, which is why we're just...
Hey now, spoilers.
Oh, Margaret loves it. Margaret loves The Villain.
I will admit, I saw The Villain before I was too young to even know who these people were.
That's the
right? Okay. But I do have fond memories of The Villain. Although
do you remember the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger's character in The Villain?
No.
Handsome Stranger.
Oh man.
No, is that all pre-Terminator and pre
1979.
Yes. So he hadn't even had he done Hercules in New York yet? Or
yeah, I think it was after it because Hercules in New York, his accent was so bad they dubbed him.
Yeah.
In this he actually speaks his own dialogue.
No.
So this was shortly after that.
You really want to torture everyone? Put that movie on the.
No.
Hercules in New York.
It was probably when did Conan come out?
82 or 84, I think.
Yeah.
It was 80 because it came out around
82.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because Terminator came out in 84, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, since you mentioned them, I will. So next week, we will be talking about two of my childhood movies that I deem as absolutely perfect films. that I
which just goes to show the flaw in your personality. But anyway,
I will say that the lack of quality of these movies is going to be made up for with my enthusiasm about these movies.
I enjoy one of the two of them.
Yes. So next week we will be talking about the pirate movie from 1982 and
Bunny Wigglesworth.
Zorro the Gay Blade from 1981. Both movies that I fondly remember growing up watching. I mean, I've probably seen each of these movies at least 50 times. So,
wow.
Having not seen either one, the pirate movie just sounds like it's a parody, like a spoof movie.
It is a little. It does go that direction.
Okay.
It uses some songs from Pirates of the Penzance,
but it isn't a parody. It's trying to be a modernization of Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it takes itself too seriously to be called a parody, though.
It does take itself enormously seriously. Zorro the Gay Blade does not.
Not at all.
Remotely seriously. These movies are wildly different, but have a similar style of humor, I would say.
Zorro has the advantage of not being a musical.
This is true. But the music in Pirate Movie, I still listen to on the regular.
The only way it's a happy ending is it's over.
I don't think it's an incredibly long movie, if that helps, Adam. Neither one of these, I don't think, is incredibly long. And they're both available on YouTube. So I'll be sure to share those links. I put links in our spreadsheet, but I will also spread joy and happiness by sharing the links everywhere else to make sure that people have no trouble finding these masterpieces.
Well, if they're like 80s comedy, I mean, 80s comedy movies are pretty short, hour and a half movies.
The pirate movie is barely a comedy.
Oh,
Zorro is definitely a comedy.
It's attempting to be a comedy. Are we looking at intent or results?
See, Zorro the Gay Blade is basically, it's almost like a brother film with the other George Hamilton, which was Love at First Bite, that came out fairly soon before or after. I don't remember the exact year of that. But that was probably George Hamilton's peak. He was briefly big of course, he was probably all over the Love Boat and Love American Style and Fantasy Island and all the TV shows of that era that would constantly have guest stars. But yeah.
A very dashing man.
Oh, very handsome guy. Absolutely.
Right? I mean, how could you resist casting him in your movies? Because he was such a charismatic character.
Oh, and he was. I mean, you'd see him because he also made tons of TV appearances. You know, he would be on every variety show. He would be on Hollywood Squares. He would be on you name it. He was just dashing. You know, he was the Leonardo DiCaprio of his day, basically.
It kind of makes me think of the character from Seinfeld, the guy who owned the magazine.
Peterman.
Yeah, Peterman. He kind of reminds me of Peterman.
Yeah.
He kind of gives off those vibes.
And he in his elderly years, he appeared on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh wow!
One of the first couple of seasons of Dancing with the Stars.
Oh man, I am super excited to talk about these movies.
Well, we'll get to that next week.
Well, we will. We will get to that next week. And next week we will be spinning the wheel. So if you're interested in choosing a movie for the week after next week, you will need to be with us next week. Even if you haven't seen the movies, you have to be with us in order to have a chance to be put on the wheel for a chance to choose the movie for the following week.
And after next week, we're finally done with double features for a while.
And then it's going to be
a bit of an exhausting month.
Yes, I do agree. And we're going to work on a little something different for next December. So stay tuned.
I enjoyed it, but it just feels like, oh man, I got to squeeze these movies in.
Yes. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be a burden. And I think it was, which I think is why I think that's why there's 3 of us here now. Because I think it was a lot. But you know.
Well, Scott, it's because it's his mom's birthday. You know, what are you going to do?
I know, right? We're grateful to have you here. And we stayed relatively close to what actually were Christmas movies. this year. There was no Die Hard. There was just the most we stepped out was probably Chronicles of Narnia. The only questionable holiday movie that we watched. So are there any good New Year's Eve movies? I know I see a lot of people who are like, oh, if you start this movie, like if you start Endgame at 10:14 p.m., it'll turn midnight right when Tony says, I'm Iron Man, and snaps his fingers.
Why would you want that?
So the question is, are there any good New Year's Eve films that actually are about New Year's Eve?
Well,
besides When Harry Met Sally, which is obviously the perfect choice.
am I remembering right? The Apartment isn't the scene at the end when she leaves Fred McMurray in the bar in the restaurant.
Oh, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
See, that's two good rom-coms that end on New Year's Eve. There you go. So there's, I think there's a raunchy comedy about New Year's Eve, isn't there?
I'm looking at a list right now.
I think there was an attempt to make a Love Actually like about New Year's, because they attempted to make a Love Actually about every holiday. Different producers, of course, not the same people.
There is a film straight up called New Year's Eve.
Exactly.
With Michelle Pfeiffer and Zac Efron. That sounds terrible.
It does sound awful. I have not seen it.
Trading Places takes place between Christmas and New Year's Eve.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
It says The Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, with good Shelley Winters, yes, and Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list.
Interesting. Not a lot.
I still remember the Mad Magazine parody of that was called the Poop Side Down Adventure.
I'm seeing a lot of people verifying that The Apartment does end on New Year's Eve, so that's a nice one.
Apparently, Bridget Jones' Diary. I don't know anything about that movie though.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Now
Diner, some movie called Diner.
Oh, I know Diner.
Yeah, Diner. Mm-hmm.
Some people are mentioning the Hudsucker Proxy, but I don't remember that having a New Year's Eve.
It's been too many years since I've seen that.
Huh?
While you were sleeping,
for kids.
For kids. Yeah, that's funny because that's exactly what it says in this quote. You might have made this post. But come February, we could watch Groundhog's Day. We could watch Valentine's Day. There's a Valentine's Day movie with Taylor Swift in it.
I'm feeling like Seth Rogen right now. Oh, come on, swallow it.
Oh man, I did enjoy when he's talking to the nativity scene. He's talking to Spencer.
Spencer, yes. Oh, you have dogs, and they talk.
And they got all dogs talk. It's amazing. So two movies with significant nativity.
Don't forget when he's recording the video in the bathroom.
Oh man. See,
this baby's a bad idea.
But when his wife is laughing at that, you kind of buy their relationship. You kind of get,
well, have you ever seen the movie Brittany Runs a Marathon?
I have not.
She stars in that. The woman who plays Seth Rogen's wife in The Night Before stars in that. And it's I wouldn't put it as a classic by any means, but it's a very solid movie, an enjoyable watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I wasn't sure. I felt pretty good about The Night Before while they were just sort of sitting on the bench looking over the city. I wasn't sure I needed the additional scenes of her having the baby and then seeing The Next Christmas. I felt, the
1 year later thing, yeah.
Yeah, I was okay with the night being over, right?
It didn't really add anything. I agree with you.
Right. But it's like, there's an extra 10 minutes that you could have wrapped it up here. And we all probably would have felt pretty good about it.
And especially since it's not as if there was anything new.
Right.
I mean, their lives are exactly where you expected them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything was going right where you were. Now, Violent Night, you really don't know what's happening with that family afterwards. They're in an interesting spot.
Like I said, what I read on Wikipedia was that the sequel, they're just in the process of writing it now. But the idea going in was to feature Mrs. Claus and the elves and maybe the reindeer more prominently. Still David Harbour as Santa. They're not getting rid of that. but to have them as more significant contributors.
Oh, interesting. I did not think we would be going back to the Lightfoot family or whatever they were called.
No, I don't think they're going to. That would be a mistake, I think.
Although I think those people are in trouble. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got dead people all over their place, right?
Yes, but they also have more money than. I mean, impression that you got from them was. I mean, it was described as the most heavily protected private compound in the U.S.
Yes.
This is one of the richest families in the world. This is Elon Musk level wealth kind of thing.
Which is good because they just burned $500,000.
I mean, and she already talked about her father covering up a kidnapping attempt, and
that's true.
The people just disappeared.
That's a very good point. She can clean this up.
She has the resources to make this go away. She's cursing out a senator on the phone at the beginning.
Oh man. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about either of these movies? Or do we want to talk about some recommendations? I know you do. I know you want to recommend something. All right. Let's jump over. All right. Recommendations. All right. I actually have a recommendation for half of our audience. Like I know for certain my recommendation, Dan will love and adore this movie. Adam, I think you would enjoy this movie. Dave, I'm just not sure. And I understand where all this comes from. But this last week we watched Saturday Night. So the new Jason Ritter directed film about the creation and going on air of the first episode of Saturday Night Live. It is full of people, young, unknown actors doing impersonations of people you know. And Dave, I think this might be where you're kind of, can you live through these impersonations or not?
My guess is that some of them will be good and some of them will be quite bad.
Honestly, most of them I feel are really good, right? Okay. Like at first it's like, yeah, he's really trying really hard to sound like Billy Crystal, but then it's like, but he does kind of sound like Billy Crystal, right? It's done very well. And whether it's not accurate, obviously, a lot of this was amped up for entertainment value, but it really was super enjoyable and such an interesting, unique way to tell that story of how that show got on the air, and definitely led us to wanting to watch the first episode of Saturday Night Live. And boy, you watch that first episode of Saturday Night Live, you can 100% see where they got 90% of their inspiration for how they shot it, who they cast, how the lighting was, the color, everything about it.
The first episode of SNL, they didn't even introduce the not ready for primetime players. It was just as individuals. It was just the group.
They were listed. They're listed, like all their names are just on the screen at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And they say the not ready for primetime players. And here's a list.
They were just a supporting cast. It was about the guest.
Yeah. And so, after we got done watching the movie, we watched the first episode of Saturday Night Live with George Carlin as the host.
Yep.
And it just totally feels like those two together made an excellent watching experience, because the movie really does take so much inspiration from the show, and obviously was made with a lot of love from the show. From what I understand, Chevy Chase is not happy with the movie at all.
Well, Chevy Chase is not liked by much of anybody he's ever worked with.
No.
So chances are he is not going to be happy with how he's portrayed by people.
And honestly, though, I didn't think he came off that bad in the movie, but probably not the way he would have liked to have been portrayed. But I mean, honestly, I think it's not very long. It's really well done. So I don't know if it's streaming anywhere for free yet, but the moment it is, I would highly recommend watching it. Again, it's an hour and 50 minutes. I really had a good time watching it. I don't know any of these actors that are in it, but they all, I felt, did, especially like the casting of like some people that you wouldn't expect. Like for Garrett Morris, that casting was fantastic. I guess J.K. Simmons is the only real name in it that I knew.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe's in it, isn't he?
Who is it?
Willem Dafoe's in it too, isn't he?
Oh, you're right. Willem Dafoe is in this.
I saw the trailer. I haven't seen the movie. I saw the trailer.
Yes, Willem Dafoe is in this as well.
Like
you're right.
Network executive or something.
Yeah.
There's certain people that would be very hard to cast. Like, I don't know the guy who played John Belushi, but it would be very hard to play John Belushi because he was such a huge personality.
It's really well done. I would really love to hear your take on it if you get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, when I saw the trailer, my only concern my only thing when I saw the trailer was I was like, a lot of them don't even look like the character they're playing in real life. Like they kind of, I don't know.
Well,
like, I know you can't like clone people like that, but it just kind of like the likeness wasn't really there for some of the characters.
But I'd rather they cast for people that can act and do the job than for physical similarity. I mean, ideally you get both, but that's hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, you have to let go of a fact that's like, does this look exactly like Chevy Chase? No, of course it doesn't, right? Because it's not Chevy Chase, right? But are the mannerisms, do you believe that this could have been how Chevy Chase behaved at this time? And it's like 100%, right? So
does it only cover up to the airing of the first episode?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's all set 2 hours before an hour and a half before they go to air.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of real time, but obviously things that would have taken 40 minutes to get done, they do in like 5 minutes, right? Yeah. So so supposedly the movie starts at 10 p.m. right? But no, there's no way. And there's there's some stuff that they definitely, so the original set on Saturday Night Live had the host standing on a brick, block in the center of the studio, right? That was paved with bricks. Apparently that was done hours before they went to live. The movie, it's done seconds before they go live, right? So they definitely had some fun with the truth to make things more dramatic, but it honestly, they probably captured the feel of the tension and the excitement that was happening that night, right?
Okay.
So is it accurate? Is it actual history? No. But is it an enjoyable time and give you a little insight of what it might have been like to have been near there when that was happening?
Ironically, just today, because I was out for a bit today, and the music channels weren't playing anything I wanted to hear. So I flipped over, hadn't listened to them in a while. I flipped over to Conan, and the two shows I heard parts of were him with Bill Hader and him with Leslie Jones. So both of them were talking about SNL. Leslie Jones was talking about how intimidating it was being on the show at first, and it was Kenan Thompson who taught her how to find her. It's like, because she apparently was getting paid no attention to whatsoever, and she's out having some weed with Kenan, and he's saying, and she's cracking him up. He's saying, "You're hysterical. Why do you do that in there?" And she goes, "Oh, it's so ghetto." He goes, "Just do it. Just do it." And so she started calling out Colin Jost in the hallway, and just like, "Oh, for a white guy, you so fine," and just screaming after him, and just started to crack up the rest of the cast, and that's how she found her voice. So it was, and I've heard too, with Seth Meyers and people on their shows talking about how intimidating that show is. Now this show takes place, as everybody's getting started. But can you imagine coming in once the cast is established?
Oh my. Yeah, seriously, right? Yeah, no, I just found it really now again, Dan and I both enjoyed the one season show, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was sort of the behind the scenes of a Saturday Night Live type program.
That started the same season as 30 Rock, didn't it?
It did. And did not do well at all. But we both enjoyed that a lot. This feels a little like that, but obviously based in reality, right? So, I mean, it is interesting too how unbelievably accurate the costuming is. If you watch this and then you watch the actual episode, it's like, oh my gosh, Billy Preston's outfit is like 1,000% the same. And it's like, that's crazy.
He played Nothing for Nothing, didn't he? On there.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So, and honestly, the person they have playing Billy Preston is amazing. Like it's really well done. So we had a really good time with it. Okay. I had a really good time with it. My wife didn't love it.
Okay.
But this was definitely right up my alley. I'll be watching this again.
The interesting thing too is in the last year, I think I've seen more of Lorraine Newman than I've seen in the last 20 years.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's partly because her daughter has been so successful, so she's been sort of back in the spotlight for that reason.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I said I recommend it. It is available for rent on Apple TV and on Amazon. It's enjoyable. It's really good. So there's my recommendation. Anybody else have anything that you'd suggest watching? Dan said he watched Red One, but he didn't say he'd recommend it.
Yeah.
I went and saw Nosferatu on Friday night.
Oh.
It was, I don't know if anybody's seen any of his movies before, but it was probably his most mainstream movie. More because it was an adaptation than anything else. But it was good, but was it as great as it's been hyped up to be? For me, no. But it was a good movie. But I think if you enjoy his movies, you'll like it. But if you're not a big fan of his, then you probably won't like it. I mean, because it's basically, you've seen it before. I mean, there's a few new wrinkles in the story, but other than that, it's just an adaptation of an older movie.
So this is Robert Eggers is who you're referring to?
Yeah. But like I said, it's a straightforward movie. It's not very like The Lighthouse. Like, I like The Lighthouse, but it's a super weird movie. Like, it's a really strange movie. It's like, he does a lot of kind of eccentric, kind of movies. And
I've never seen one of his movies.
Yeah, they're.
Although I've heard good things about The Witch. Which actually looks like Vivitch because it's like two V's.
Yes.
But I know it's not Vivitch. So I've heard really good things about that. But I've never had a chance to watch it yet. He's only directed 4 films.
Yeah, his first one was The Witch, and then he did the Northman
and The Lighthouse.
And The Lighthouse, and then this one.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was good. Like I said, I mean, it's not. I mean, a lot of people were losing their minds over it, and I'm just like, I don't see why. I mean, it was good. I mean, I didn't particularly care for Lily Rose Depp's acting. I thought she was kind of the weak link in the entire movie, but it was, the cinematography was amazing, though. The sets and the cinematography and the costumes are great. So I would give it, I guess, a tepid recommendation if you're a fan of those kind of movies.
Well, you also saw something that you would recommend, though.
Oh, yeah, Sonic 3. I loved it. me and the kids loved it. It was great. It was great. It was good. It was really good. I think
my kids, my one said it, my one oldest son said it might be the best movie ever made.
Well, I would say it's the best out of the 3 that they have made. It's the best out of the franchise so far.
Wow.
He's just so excited. It's a movie with Shadow in it, so he's like, it's the best movie ever made.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. It was fun, and it had some heart to it, and Jim Carrey he was good. He started to kind of veer into like the Will Ferrell territory for me a little bit, but then he kind of reeled it in a little bit, because I was like, oh, is he going to be like this the entire movie? But yeah, it was
like, for me, Jim Carrey didn't make it, but it's nice to see him in something again.
Yeah,
and he's flat out come out and said, I needed some money. So,
but I think it's a role too that he actually enjoys. I think he said before he actually likes playing that role too.
Yeah.
So.
Does Jim Carrey have kids or no?
I don't know.
He
might have I don't know. Maybe a daughter.
He does. He has one daughter.
Yeah. Okay.
his daughter, Jane Erin Carey, and so I find there's some actors who really do enjoy doing movies that their kids are going to enjoy as well. Although his daughter is 37 now. So she might not be as excited about Shadow as my kids are.
I did see they show a trailer. I don't know if anybody's interested, but I mean I'm not, because it's a kid's book, but I guess they're doing a movie off of the Dog Man books. There's a series.
Yes, we saw a preview of that.
Okay. Let's talk about Dogman for a second.
Yeah, they're doing a Dogman movie.
The preview did not make me want to see it.
Well, I have questions. I have questions. So basically, we sacrificed a human so that a dog can have a body. This is basically the way the trailer sets forth how Dogman comes to exist. Yet, when you see Dogman, he has paws. Though they claimed they used the other police officer.
They put a dog's head on a man's body. Yes. Uh-huh.
It's like somehow you used his paws too. And it's like, no, this is all messed up. This is some sort of freakish Frankenstein stuff happening here.
I will say the other preview I saw recently that made me go, oh, I don't think I want to see that, was Snow White.
Oh, I've not seen the trailer for that.
Not necessarily. Snow White looks fine. The dwarves look creepy.
Ooh.
Very creepy.
Is that the one where Gal Gadot's the evil bitch? Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And that comes out next year.
Yep.
Interesting. Renee Zegler and Gal Gadot.
I mean, they're trying to do CGI dwarfs, and they don't look good.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Now, maybe they'll do this. Maybe they'll do the Sonic, and prove it between the trailer and when they actually bring the movie out.
It's coming out in March, though. They don't have a lot of time.
No, they don't.
Yeah. Adam and I were talking about this a little bit before we went on, and I mean, I personally, we almost got 15 minutes of straight up television commercials before we even got to the previews of our showing of Sonic 3.
What theater?
This was AMC. No,
AMC,
sorry, this is Cinemark. This is Cinemark.
Yeah. Okay, AMC is the worst. We've gone to Movie Scoop, Cinemark, and AMC in the last year. AMC, we found, had by far the most crap ads that you had to sit through before you got to the movie.
See, I don't mind trailers. If you want to give me 30 minutes of trailers, that's fine, right? But don't give me 15 minutes of straight up television commercials.
Amazon and Coke ads, and yeah.
That to me was like, okay, this is absolutely insane. These aren't even specially made for the theaters. These are
what you're doing is driving people away from theaters. It's like, oh, I don't want to go sit through that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is you don't know how long to wait before you actually go. Yep. So do you go when the movie's supposed to start and then risk it? Or do you risk missing the beginning of the movie because you didn't want to have to sit through 20 minutes of ads? Because again, I enjoy trailers for movies I'm not aware of, but I don't enjoy just having to sit through commercials for, what's coming into TNT next month, Yep. I mean, I love some Nuvi. Give me all the Nuvi you want. I'm good with that. But it's just the ads. That's too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, AMC and Regal are the two biggest offenders with that. Because we have a lot of Regals up here, so most of the theaters up here are Regal.
But
I haven't seen Cinemark being that bad, to be honest. Typically,
this was bad, but it also could be that it was Sonic.
Yes.
So
and it was recently released. I think the longer it's in theaters, the less of that the people will put up with, and the less of them you'll get.
Yeah. Now, do we want to talk a little bit about the Superman trailer?
Oh, jeez. I'm not hyped to see it. Honestly, to me, it just looks like, and I think I even said it in the chat when we in our chat. I said it looks like a CW movie. It looks like a CW version of Superman.
It does. Yeah, it has problems. It definitely has problems. Well, my problem is too. I with Superman, I have this with Batman, and they kind of dealt with that in the last Batman movie. But I have origin story fatigue for most DC characters, right? Like the
How
last.
many times can you tell this an origin story?
I don't want to see. I'm tired of seeing Superman and Batman's origin stories, right?
So according to James Gunn, from what I've read, he said that the movie actually starts after he's been established as Superman, and it's no origin story. It picks up way after he's become.
As long as we're not getting a lot of flashbacks and getting our origin story hidden throughout the movie, right? That's my fear, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I am. You know, and I thought, and I applaud Marvel for what they did with Spider-Man, right? Is they just avoided all of it. They don't talk about Uncle Ben. They didn't show us Uncle Ben. They didn't show us him getting bitten by a spider, right? Vague references to it, but that's all they're ever going to do. And I respect that because, like, we have had so many origin stories for Spider-Man.
It seems like every time a new director or a new main actor takes over, they feel the need to sort of start over.
Yep.
And it gets tiresome. Yeah.
It's so bad, you know? So, yeah. So, I might go see it. I like to go to the movies, right? And I love seeing a big blockbuster superhero film. And there's really not a lot coming out next year that I'm excited about. So I will probably go see it, but I have my concerns.
It broke the internet for whatever reason, but yeah, it went crazy on the internet when it came out, and I was like, I mean, he looks like,
it didn't impress me, but maybe we're not the target audience.
I mean, he looked. I mean, that he looked like he had a really bad wig on when he's Clark Kent. It looks like he's got a bad wig on or something.
I think there, and I don't say this is what's happening, but there's definitely the case where sometimes a director or a studio will decide to target a certain demographic. Like, the Batman demographic has gotten older and older. We need to try to bring the young people back in.
Right.
So they'll gear a movie toward, and you can make that work. Something like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or something like that, where it's a different style and that engages people. But if you're just going to try to blatantly target a younger audience, and I'm afraid that's what's trying to be done here, it's likely to fail.
I like Nicholas Hoult, but him as Lex Luthor doesn't really, I don't know.
Well, and you also get tired of the same old villains.
Yeah.
Why do we need Lex Luthor again?
No, I'm the same way with that. I feel 100% that way about Lex Luthor.
The comic books is full of villains for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Can't find anybody but Lex Luthor, and there's got to be other options, and General Zod.
I agree. Now, I mean, James Gunn for me is like, yes, he has done amazing superhero movies that are rooted in comedy, and this clearly is not.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest concern about this, is that I'm not. This will be a test of James Gunn's ability and put together a movie that is serious.
I have been fooled by trailers before. There have been bad trailers for good movies and good trailers for bad movies. So it's hard to tell, but it isn't promising.
Well, that, and it looks like they're bringing in a lot of, from the trailer at least, they're bringing in some characters that I don't even know who they are. Like, I know the Green Lantern person. I know obviously Green Lantern, a Green Lantern is going to be in it from the trailer. And I think Hawk Girl, but there's that one guy with the black face paint on. I have no clue who that is. So it's like they're bringing in these characters that people are going to have no clue who the hell they are.
Yeah, but Marvel made that work with Guardians of the Galaxy. Who knew who Guardians of the Galaxy were? You can make that work, but you have to approach it the right way.
Yeah.
When does that open? Does anybody know?
July.
Okay, so we got time. We got time to figure that out.
But I mean, I was, they keep trying to promote the hell out of the new Captain America, and from what I read, they had to do reshoots because I'm guessing I think they did test screenings and it didn't go well because they had to do some reshoots.
Well, that's one of the problems with having been so successful the last time around. It would be very hard to recast Tony Stark after Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah,
and it will be really hard. And admitted, they're not trying to recast this, the same character. It's just a new Captain America, but still, people want Chris Evans as Captain America. They don't want someone else. they'll take someone else as a superhero, sure, but not Captain America. That's not my Captain America. It's tough.
And this is their first test on doing that, right?
I know.
It happens a lot in the comics where the mantle is handed down amongst new people. But does that work in the movies? And is it something people accept? It'll be very interesting to see. In comic books, you're not worried about actors as much.
When you're not worried about continuity, you're not worried about, it's a
different game.
Yep.
Well, I think they tried to test the water too with Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I didn't really like, but
No, Falcon and Winter Soldier was boring.
Yes. And long.
Not Eternals boring, but boring.
Very long. But okay. All right. Well, on that note, here I 3D printed a Black Widow. Look how cute that is. Oh my goodness. Couldn't you just die? She's like Lego, but she's Black Widow.
I am kind of curious. Of about Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
I'm curious about that. So
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I just feel like Phase 4 burnt me so many times of like maybe Ant-Man will be good. My expectations are like so low that it's like, well, there'll be popcorn.
I mean, they can't have any worse of a run than the Sony Marvel movies, which are all just atrocious.
It's true.
It's
true. Madam Web is an impressive feat of terrible movie.
And then apparently there were, I don't know if you saw this, there was apparently a report that came out that for the longest time people were under the impression that Sony couldn't use the MCU characters, and I guess there was a report saying that was never true, that Sony just never wanted to use them.
Interesting.
Like they could have had Spider-Man in those movies, the Venom movies, the entire time. They just decided not to.
I wonder if it would have cost them though. Like Probably. They could do it, but they weren't willing to pay the fees.
Well, I think what happened was because Marvel not sold off, but licensed the rights to Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and a few others, over the years. And then after they were acquired by Disney, they stopped doing that. And as those rights expired, or as Disney just swallowed up studios, because that's how they got X-Men, is they just bought 20th Century Fox. They gradually pulled almost all of those back in. And Spider-Man is still the one exception, the one outlier, because Sony has continued to make movies and continued to keep their license to it. And they have sort of an uncomfortable alliance with Disney to sort of share the character, but it's contentious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the Venom movies made no sense to me because they're so Spider-Man adjacent, but yet they had nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Same with, I haven't seen Kraven yet, but I don't think it has anything to do with the Spider-Man universe at all. So
I didn't mind the first Venom movie, but after that it got real bad real quick.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson was pretty bad for Carnage. He wasn't a very good Carnage.
Speaking of really bad, really quick, let's talk about next week's movie. So next week we will gather to talk about the pirate movie and Zorro the Gay Blade. Adam, I challenge you to make it through both of these.
We'll see. I mean, they're free on YouTube, so I mean, at least
they're
I don't have to pay
free.
for them.
It won't cost you a penny.
And I can pause the movie and go back to it at a later date if I don't,
It'll be worth every penny you spend on it.
I would love to hear a list of every scene that you disliked in these movies.
How long do you have?
Next week's show will be 4 hours long. So join us next week. We will talk about the pirate movie, Zorro the Gay Blade. Any last thoughts? Any New Year's resolutions you want to make?
What order should I watch the movies in? Which one do you think I'll make it through all the way through?
I think you'll definitely make it through Zorro the Gay Blade.
Okay, I'll watch that one first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I doubt you'll be able to make it through the pirate movie.
We'll see.
No, I think you can. I think in small digestive bits. Don't leave them both for Monday.
No.
Give yourself some time. Because you're gonna need a palate cleanser. I mean, it's about the sugary, sweetest movie you've ever gonna watch. Like, this is so good. Amazing. I'm gonna watch each of these movies 3 times before next Monday. This is my New Year's resolution.
I mean, if I made it through Cats, I can make it through anything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I would say you'd like this more than Cats.
Okay.
But maybe by like a whisker.
Oh, what happened to my life?
Sure. Dave might be putting this in the Cats category. The category. You see there, it's all over the place.
It has been a long time since I saw the pirate movie.
I'm so excited for you to get this opportunity.
But I have attempted my best to forget it.
Is there anyone famous in that movie at all? Or just a bunch of
Christy McNichol?
It's people that were famous in 1982.
Oh God.
In 1982 famous.
Oh
yes.
Right. But nobody who's had a lasting career. Well, no, hold on. I might take that back.
Well, I think Dan knows Christy McNichol. I think she lives on Bainbridge Island, I think.
He knows somebody who is Christy McNichol adjacent.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right. He knows somebody who was on a show with Christy McNichol.
It is very much, Eric is right, though. It is very much filled with people that were 80s famous.
Yeah. Ted Hamilton. Come on.
Yes.
You know, and
80s famous.
And that's where it ends. Music by Mike Brady, but not that Mike Brady. It's 105 minutes. I mean, come on.
And
on a budget of $6 million, it made $9 million.
It was nominated for 5 Razzies. No, I take that back. It was nominated for more than 5 Razzies.
Oh, jeez.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Razzies.
Wow.
Worst original song had 2. Actually, had 2 of them. 2 of their songs were nominated. Worst musical score, worst screenplay, worst director, worst supporting actor, worst actress, worst actor, and worst picture.
All right. To be fair, on Rotten Tomatoes, this gets a 9.
Wow.
Now, the audience score, or not what they now call the popcornometer, is 77. Right. So people who love it do love it, but the actual critics give it a 9.
It's the kind of movie that most people don't know exists. So if you watch it, it's probably because you like it.
It's true. It's true. We'll find out next week.
Yes, we will.
So join us for that. Have a happy and safe New Year. We'll be back here next Monday. It'll be 2025. Who knows what's going to happen? Wild things. It could be insane. So, yeah, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next week. Button here. I just remember all this works. There it is. Good night, everybody. See ya.